Oh, here comes a sick one.
Ronnie and Paul breaking things down. We're all washed up on the whole down.
Welcome once again to The Hole Down. I'm your host, Ronnie Blakey. This is my co-host, a man that spent 25 years reporting on professional surfing. He's also been referred to as the Forrest Gump of surfing. He's my big brother, Vaughan Blakey. Great to see you.
Thanks, Ron. I have always said surfing is like a box of chocolates.
Mate, what's this show all about?
Mate, this show is about celebrating and walking through some of the great moments in surf history, looking at the characters and also some of the big events that have shaped this wonderful landscape that we're all lucky enough to be a part of.
Beautiful. Well, what we're going to be looking at today is one of those events, the Volcom Pipe Pro, and it's an interesting contest because it's one of the most revered titles that you can go after, yet it's not a championship tour contest.
You're absolutely right. This is an event that's really close to my heart. I've been lucky enough to have been a commentator at this comp for the last few years, and as you say, any event in Hawaii is a big event because winning over there is so hard, man. I mean, it's almost like there's world title prestige associated with any event win in Hawaii. And the Volcom Pipe Pro has that prestige, mostly because the surf they've had over the last few years, since its inception really, has pumped.
Let's dive into the big moments of the Volcom Pipe Pro, starting with this, our number 5. Our number 5 is dedicated to the breakthrough performances of the young guns in the past couple of years, because this event has been absolutely dominated by the likes of Jamie O'Brien, John Florence and Kelly Slater since it came on the scene. But the last couple of years, it's been the kids ruling. Let's wind the clock back a little bit. 2017, Australia gets its first win in the Volcom Pipe Pro, Solly Bailey overcoming an incredibly stacked field, always at the Volcom Pipe Pro.
And this was unbelievable because he did not drop a heat through the entire event. He didn't even come second, not once. He just dominated with such class and like a seasoned pipeline surfer, which is just unbelievable when you think he comes from Byron Bay. 2016 was a classic event and he went off. He was probably one of the standouts of that whole comp, even though he didn't make the final. But he backed it up the next year with a huge win and really announced himself as a guy who is going to be a standout surfer for Australia in the years to come.
It kind of blows your mind when you look at the field every year. You've got guys that have dedicated their lives to solely riding pipeline and backdoor, and all of a sudden you're up against these guys. They're kind of the titans on the North Shore, and to get a victory over them is huge.
Oh man, when the grommets do it, the bragging rights must feel so good because, you know, it's a macho place and the pecking order is so defined. But Josh Moniz, what this would have meant to him is so massive because he comes from the Moniz family. Now this is Hawaiian surfing royalty, mate. Tony Moniz, a pipe specialist, a great competitor back in the day. His children have actually all gone on to have really wonderful careers in surfing as well. So Seth Moniz, Josh's younger brother, I think he's leading the QS at the moment. Kalea, she is two-time longboarding world champ.
Yep, two-time longboarding world champ and just an incredible all-round surfer. And Josh, you know, he's been chipping away at the QS for a couple of years, but this is the event that he would have pegged on the qualifying series to take out. He's done it.
And when Josh got the win, mate, they were just swarming him. They paddled out and he slid off his board and there was just this giant group hug and the love got to me. Yeah. Misty, getting a bit misty-eyed.
You know what I'm picking up on with all these kids is their approach at pipe is a direct influence of guys like Jamie O'Brien, John Florence, Kelly Slater, Bruce Irons. So it's actually their own fault that these kids are beating them because they've just modelled their whole tube riding act on what those guys have done.
Absolutely true. You can just imagine Jamie out there sometimes going, what have I done? What have I created here? Because he has literally changed the way the pipeline was surfed. I think it started probably with the Irons brothers sliding down the face and, you know, really releasing their fins and then kinking it in and then getting the drive, and no one did that better than Jamie O'Brien once he became, you know, the top dog out there.
Beautiful to see, but you also highlighted a solid performance from another competitor, and it was a bit of a surprise to some people.
Not to me, Ron, because I could not wait to see this guy get over to Hawaii. He's one of my favourite surfers ever, Noah Dean. He'd picked up a sponsorship with the Volcom, so that meant he landed a bed in the Pipe House, which is a pretty intimidating place, you know. It's got a lot of history. It was where the Wolfpack set up camp for years and would blow the whistle on people who were misbehaving in the lineup, and there'd be real serious repercussions, snapped out fins and a little bit of intimidation, physical, all that sort of stuff. But he got over there, put on the rashie and got stuck into pipeline like an absolute legend, and he beat John Florence in an early round heat in third reef wash-throughs.
Stay with us, because after the break, we're going to uncover what's sitting at number 4 on the list here on the Hold Down. This is the Hold Down. Welcome back to the show. We had a look at the young guns dominating in the Volcom Pipe Pro, causing some big upsets over the established guard. And now we're going to talk about Pipe the Wave, because it really is the star of the show.
Every surfer worth their salt wants to go to the pipeline. Not always want to surf it. It's a pretty heavy, scary situation to paddle out there into that pecking order and onto the reef and stuff, but it is by far the thing that we all seem to be drawn to. At the end of every year in the comps, whether you get to Hawaii, you just want to run down the beach and put your toes in the sand so that you can feel the energy of the place. There is no more powerful wave in the world, I think, than Pipe.
Just so celebrated too through the surf media, and obviously feared too through the mainstream media, because it is the most dangerous wave in the world.
For sure. It's just so unpredictable. It's far from a perfect wave. It looks so beautiful in the photos and things like that. And some guys really do make it look like a cakewalk, as Jerry Lopez once said, the ultimate pipeline master. Jerry.
What we're going to do now is dive into our number 4, and this is going to be a lot of fun, because we're going to check out the most perfect rides from the Volcom Pipe Pro, the 10s. So Vaughan, talk to me about what it takes to get yourself that perfect number in this event.
I wish I knew, but clearly pipeline at its best is terrifying. The best way to get a perfect ride out there is to really do something extraordinary, because so many waves have been filmed out of pipeline. We've seen so many competitions out there over the years. To get a 10, you know, you've got to show the judges something they've never seen before. And so that's why the 10s there always have a little bit of something that you can't quite put your finger on.
It seems to me that these days you can't just ride the wave to the end and expect that you're going to get a 10-point ride. If the wave has the potential for a 10 and you don't stuff yourself way back in there on the foam ball and almost give people the perception that you're maybe not going to come out, then you're not going to get the number that you want.
Oh, bang on. Backdoor, on the other hand, is a whole different ball game, because that reef is so sharp. You're looking almost across it when you're on the beach, especially from the judging tower. And the guys who surf on the backdoor and get 10s out there usually are wrestling the foam ball.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch at the Volcom Pipe Pro over the years. Guys come out and you kind of get the feeling that you're going to see a big number drop when the surfer's in that celebration mode. When you get that exhilarating ride, you get something spectacular, you just got to put your hands up.
You know when you know. When you get a good one, you know. You know, and you let everyone else know, because you come out and you just bang, explode. A 10-point ride out there, you cannot fake it.
Well, we saw it there. We know that fortune favours the brave, but the brave also get pounded. No. And that brings us to our number 3 on the list. 3! Wipeouts. And there has been so many good ones at the Volcom Pipe Pro over the years. It just seems that when the set waves march in, the crowd starts screaming, you're up against some of the best surfers in the world. The ability to make a smart decision is gone. And as a result, you are going to see guys go down and go down hard.
Every single pipe day has wipeouts that are for the books. But like you say, Doggy, in the heats, that's when you really see guys get into positions that they wouldn't normally get themselves into, because all that pressure starts to leading, like you say, to brain snaps occasionally. And the pipe, like the Volcom Pipe Pro, has definitely had some of the most brutal ever, because the waves have been pumping for the event. And when you see the best pipe specialists in the world get flogged, it sends chills up your spine, because you can't help but just think, imagine if that was me out there. Dust, I tell you.
I think for me, the scariest ones are those backdoor waves.
Oh, shivers.
It's just got this
Guillotine.
absolute sledgehammer just staring down at you, and so often we see guys get caught and just skittled across the reef there. It's one of the most frightening things to witness.
For sure, and the end section at Backdoor has to be one of the most treacherous bits of reef in the world. It's so shallow, and you don't want to get wedged there, but likewise, you do not want to cop a first reef double up. That is probably the nightmare scenario, and over the years, we have seen a couple of crazy poundings out there. None better than Freddie Petaccio. I saw one year, I was there, dog, I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. It was just the thickest, craziest wipeout I've seen out of pipe for years. And he got through it, Freddie P. Bless him, on your Freddie. But Kelly Slater was on the beach and he said, that is one of the heaviest wipeouts I've ever seen. If he had been an inch to the left or an inch to the right, he might have been atomised.
No, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
100%.
They're just the three basic rules that you cannot mess around with out of pipeline. Commit all the way, back yourself and your line, and get into the tube, because if you're in front of it or outside of it, no good.
Not a bad philosophy to take into your surf sessions as well. Always commit. We're going to commit to a couple more big moments on the list here at the Volcom Pipe Pro. You're watching The Hold Down, and we'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to the show. Today we're breaking down the 5 big moments from the Volcom Pipe Pro. When you think of World Qualifying Series events, you've got the Vans World Cup at Sunset, then you've got the Hawaiian Pro at Haleiwa, the US Open, but the Volcom Pipe Pro is right up there, one of the most sought after titles, and as a result you get really exciting finishes. And 2012 served up an absolute beauty. This is our number 2.
2012, doggy, we saw the young upstart, the little prodigy, the little blonde-head whippersnapper, John Florence, out at Pipeline. The crown is going to be his one day, we all know it, but the king is still Jamie O'Brien. Everyone looked up to him, everyone knew he was the best out there, and Jamie and John went at it in the final, but guess what? Jamie schooled him. Jamie actually had the entire field comboed with 3 minutes to go.
Awesome to see that, isn't it? When you've got just the young Jedi, young Skywalker going up against Yoda, or Jamie O'Brien. And it's just a battle until the final stages. And Jamie had just put everyone up against the ropes. He had a couple of excellent scores already. There was 4 guys out in the lineup. That's the case at the Volcom Pipe Pro. But it was really just a 2-man battle. John started clawing his way back into that final, but left his run just a little too late. Or so we thought. So it seemed. He actually paddles up to Jamie with, time ticking away on the clock. It's during one of those little flat bits, and gives him a hug, shakes his hand, and says, hey, well done, and, concedes defeat. And then all of a sudden, this little lump of swirl jacks up, and John gets it, and he's back in it. And things took a very wild, sharp twist. John Florence gets himself well positioned, nice and deep, funnels his way through a backdoor nugget, gets spat out, the crowd erupts, he can't help but put his hands up in the air, and I think we've got to take another close look at it. So it's John Florence saying congratulations to Jamie O'Brien. As you watch the vision, Jamie throws his hands up, puts his head down for a moment. John Florence is gone, chasing down a set wave, and you know what? Because Jamie's there celebrating with his head down, he reacts just a little bit too late. And when he makes his charge, he can't chase John Florence down. We know John's one of the fastest paddlers in the world, and he's gone. Amazing to see, and definitely one of the highlight moments. I think not just in the Volcom Pipe Pro history, but in the history of surfing. Just to go up and congratulate someone on an event win and then snatch it from them in the final stages, that's huge. Well, congratulations there to John Florence. An epic moment in the history of this contest, but we have one more to reveal. We're going to get to it right now. This is our number 1.
2016, doggy. It was the year that Pipeline lit up in all its glory, and it fired from the first heat right through to the finish. Mate, probably one of the best surf comps ever run.
You were there.
I was there.
And mate, the waves were firing. It was almost like they were spoiled with choices. Every event has a window, a 2-week period generally, where they have to pick the eyes out of the swell that's on offer for that window. And every day. It was just firing.
It was so perfect and so beautiful. Like, it was just second reef, marching swells, no lulls, no nothing, just this endless parade of just perfect 10, 12, 15 foot waves. And we saw some of the best surfing ever from everyone from Kelly Slater, you know, the 11-time world champ, all the way down to, you know, first-time guys at Pipeline getting the waves of their lives, and just everything around that contest, everything about it just was oozing just that classic Hawaiian, you know, what makes Hawaii just the best?
Mana.
The mana. It was so good.
Yeah, the mana
it was the
was
best
just being spewed out over the social media stratosphere. People were just uploading images every day. Each morning a competition was just like a perfect advertisement for the Volcom Pipe Pro, and it was just out there for all to see. You couldn't help but get engaged, and I'm sure they had a huge audience, because the waves are some of the best we've ever seen for a contest, hands down.
Yeah, and you know, performances, I mean, a few that come to mind. Solly Bailey, he really set the platform for his win the following year by doing things in that event that I never saw coming. Makai Mcnamara got a 10-point ride after getting an interference in the semi-finals and nearly not making the final. So he needed a 10 to get through the heat, and packed one of the best waves ever seen at Pipeline. Got spat out of it. The crowd went absolutely wild. That was a memorable wave. Tommy Whittaker, another amazing performance. Nearly made a wave out there in that event that Kelly Slater called the best wave he'd ever seen at Pipe if he'd made it.
Wow.
But, you know, he didn't make it, so Kelly was happy to throw that compound out. What are you, Kelly? Up the goat! By the end of it, it was fitting in a way that we hadn't seen Kelly really get a win in quite some time, and it was his first win in a long, long time. I think it might have been even 2 years, correct me if I'm wrong. But, you know, he took out the best pipe comp ever by basically doing what the GOAT does, and that is being the best.
Great fun breaking down the big moments of the Volcom Pipe Pro, but we still have more coming your way on the show after the break. A very special bonus list here on The Hold Down.
We're all washed up on the whole game.
Welcome back to the show. We were having a look at the pipe section in Noah Dean's signature film, Head Noise, just then, and that leads us to this special little bonus segment that we've got for you.
Oh man, Head Noise. Mind blown. Clip of the year by a mile. And to me, this is like one of my favourite surfers, one of my favourite people, but a guy who is really starting to hit his stride as one of the most exciting surfers on the planet. Let's check out these top 5 moments. First wave of the clip. Straight away you're into it, and you know you're going to be seeing some pretty extraordinary surfing. The way Noah does airs, I think he's the most futuristic. Like he does the best tweaks and the biggest airs, and there's nothing that kind of looks coached about it. It is raw and it's exciting, and it reminds me of the glory days of aerial surfing from, you know, Archie and Fletcher and all these guys who were using everything they could get, all those outside influences, and bringing it into aerial surfing.
He seems like, when you watch that first air, that he's kind of out of the same mould as like a Dame Reynolds and an Andy Irons, just with that raw approach. I think technically there's guys that are equally sort of there with him as far as pushing the limits, but the height, and as you said, just those tweaks on the tail are next level.
Number 4 was a magic day on one of the Goldie points. You forget that Noah is a product of the greatest tube factory on earth, and when you see him in those sorts of waves, those sand bottom draining points, mate, how good is he?
Exactly.
The dude has a nose for the pit.
Really well-rounded surfer, gets barreled 4 times, throws a little choppy on the end just to mix things up, but I love that wave. Would love to get one of those myself. Let's dive into number 3, because this is an interesting one, but you picked this one out of the movie, even though he didn't make this turn.
This wave says everything to me about how Noah surfs. Every single thing he does is as big as he can possibly do it. So he's not out there trying to get the makes all the time. I mean, he is always trying to make what he does, but he's always hitting the section as hard as he can. And when he comes in and he's that close to one, he is so mad. And sometimes you see skaters like bang their skateboards and kick them down the street and have a hissy fit, and they can't deal with the fact they didn't make something. That's Noz. He's always pushing to go as hard as he can. And the next wave is another non-make, but it is the wave that really, for me, changed the way that the world saw Noah, because everyone knew that he was, going to be, like you said, the next sort of in the mould of Dane, a guy who was going to break performance surfing wide open in terms of high performance and free surfing. But this wave really shocked a lot of people. This was just a big old bomb in the backdoor shootout. The entire Volcom house was up there watching, and we talked about the significance of that place, and Noah just packs it like a lunatic. Can he surf pipe? That's the question. Well, the answer is yes, he can. Quite well.
And that brings us to the banger, the final turn that we've marked as a highlight moment in head noise. It's one of the best airs we've ever seen.
If this isn't one of the best airs you've ever seen, you and you, forget about it. This thing is just a full-on hat to the wind. Up into the heavens he went, and the fact he pulls this around and how high his tail is at one stage makes it the best air I've ever seen. That's it. Shut the gate. I'm done.
Vaughan's done, I'm done, and the show is done. That's another big episode of The Hold Down wrapped up for this week. Tune in next week. We've got another big list coming your way.